Hello everyone, good afternoon, and thank you for being here. We're not the fashion models, but we will definitely do a good job to entertain you. My name is Jenifer Croes, and I'll be introducing my esteemed panelists in a minute. But I wanted to just give you a little bit of an introduction as to what we're talking about today. We are currently facing a biodiversity and nature crisis. Over 1 billion people rely on oceans and forests for their livelihoods. 55% of global GDP relies on nature. But let's be honest, we depend on nature 100%. The food we eat, the water we drink, the clothes we wear, the medicine we take, even the technology that's in your hands. Biodiversity loss poses a significant threat to sustainability, impacting ecosystem health, food security, as well as our overall human wealth. We have failed to put a value on nature. But let's really question this. Is there a value on nature when nature is totally invaluable? We know how to bend the curve, we know how to unlock finance, and we need to leverage off technology and innovation. And today I'm so proud to be joined by esteemed panelists and colleagues to actually have this conversation. Let me introduce you to Dr. Wafa Al-Yamani, the Certification Policy Control Expert at the United Arab Emirates Ministry of Climate Change and Environment. Welcome. Mr. Shannon Scott, Vice President, Sustainability and Environment of Emirates. Ms. Tanya Huffman, Founder and Director of Clamondial. And Mr. Adnan Mahdi, Vice President, Group Environment, Occupational Health and Social Risk from ADNOC. Welcome, and really glad to have you here. So without further ado, I think it would be great to start on a topic that not many people really know about. So Dr. Wafa, I wanted to ask you about the impact of land degradation and desertification on the environment, especially here in the MENA region.
Thank you, Jenifer. So in just simple words, land degradation means that the lands, there's a reduction in the quality of the land itself. The land cannot no longer sustain itself. It cannot provide any ecological, let's say, and environmental benefits as it should be when it's a healthy soil. Land degradation is also being increased in the MENA region, if you would say, and the environmental impacts, it's very huge. And that's because the land itself loses its productivity. And it is in a higher, let's say, level in the MENA region because we already have around 50% of the land degraded, and that because the ecosystem is very fragile. We have limited resources of soil and fresh water. But if we also want to consider, we need to consider the economic and the social impacts of land degradation, not only the environmental ones, because once they are accelerated, it could lead to a very serious social and economic impacts. For example, if we have a huge, let's say, dust and sandstorms, which in the MENA region, it costs around 2.5% of the total GDP in the region, and it's directly affect the human health and the biodiversity and the crop yields as well.
Thank you. Well, I think we're all familiar with some dust storms here, right? And I think this is particularly prudent that we talk about a topic such as this. And so the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification, so the UNCCD, which the UAE is a member of, is obviously one of the international agreements that really sets the framework. What are some of the other policies and frameworks and initiatives to combat desertification here in the UAE and globally that you can talk about and share with the audience?
Yeah, so you are right. The UNCCD is the global, let's say, engine for all the national initiatives we have here in the UAE. So for us in the UAE, we translate that global commitment into a national actions, and that we are doing it through the national strategy to combat land degradation. It is a very comprehensive strategy which has five major priorities and more than 80 indicators from different sectors. It includes the protected lands, forestry, rangelands, applying technology, applying land regulations and policies, and so many other aspects that touch on it. And this is on the national level. But if we are talking about a regional level in the Middle East and the GCC countries, the UAE is actually very active and supporting the Middle East Green Initiative.
Yep.
Which is also promotes for a huge land restoration and afforestation in these Middle East countries. And just recently, we also joined other GCC countries where we are working on specializing an index specified only for the Gulf countries on land degradation.
Amazing. Well, I really look forward to have wider conversations around this much needed topic. Thank you, Dr. Wafa. And I'm just going to turn to Adnan. ADNOC operates in a very climate sensitive region, we all live here, where development, energy security and nature protection must advance together. As an energy leader, can you please tell us how ADNOC is working with government and regulators to embed biodiversity priorities into its operations, and how this is accelerating in actually on the ground?
Thank you. So first thing I'd like to say, to set kind of the context or background a bit on ADNOC, is for us, when it comes to biodiversity or nature itself, it is a key component in our HSE operating framework, in our HSE management system. This means for us it is fully integrated in across our operations. And this includes as well at the early phases of any project that we do. So that is the first one. Coming to what do we need to do, or how do we do it with the regulators and government in general? Very simple. Continuous dialogue is key. So an example would be when we come to develop a corporate practice, I engage through consultation with the government entities, either Environment Agency of Abu Dhabi, the Ministry of Climate Change, and this also includes as well the international organizations like IPCA or IOGP. This really is key for us when we develop our corporate practices. Yeah, that is part of our management system by itself. And the second part I would say is, so in ADNOC, when we would like to develop our biodiversity strategy or the initiatives of that specific year, start early on, engage with the regulators, with the agencies, with the ministry, with the key stakeholders through technical workshops, through knowledge sharing, data sharing. By that we can set really, at the end we are in one land.
Yeah.
That we need to protect. Yeah, so we need to align together and work together through these forums, I would say. So ultimately, this means when it comes to how does it accelerate? So from the start, I will have a unified approach with the regulators to have a stronger impact, positive impact on the biodiversity, and this will accelerate quickly our initiatives, and it can be a collective impact at the end of the day.
Thank you. Well, it's music to my ears when I hear biodiversity strategies and partnerships. And I think going from the energy sector, I want to take it now to you, Shannon, on behalf of, I guess, another business sector, in this case, aviation. We all know, we all fly, some of us have flown from around the world to be here at this amazing summit. But obviously airlines, or the aviation sector broadly, places pressure on the environment. And one of its key roles to bend the curve is through decarbonisation. But there are obviously other sustainable and conservation initiatives that can be taken. And I just wanted to ask you what these are in order for airlines to reduce their environmental footprint, and what Emirates is doing in this area, and what are the results?
Absolutely. Well, our emissions reduction strategy obviously has to be one of our major priorities as an airline. We can't avoid that. Our second priority area is consuming responsibly, which is around reducing waste and procuring more responsibly. But our third priority in our environmental framework is indeed preserving wildlife and habitats. And the Emirates group as a whole has been actively involved in this area for many years. Over 20 years ago, we started management, set up the Dubai Desert Conservation Reserve, which is done on behalf of the Dubai government. And this is a 225 square kilometre reserve, protected area out in the desert down the Al Ain Road, and preserves and protects some of the most amazing wildlife that we have in this country. In fact, it also hosts visitors, travellers, all on managed tours, as well as hosting research and ecological research. And just recently, the last 2 years, we built a visitor centre out there as well. So we welcome you to please go and visit the centre. So that was the first thing, a major investment in conservation. The second piece is Emirates set up the Emirates Wolgan Valley Resort in New South Wales in Australia, which is a conservation-based resort, also registered carbon neutral. So another big investment in conservation. But as we became more aware of wider issues, in 2016 we were one of the founding signatories of the Buckingham Palace Declaration, which addresses the illegal wildlife trade. This illegal wildlife trade is the fourth largest illegal trade in the world. It's having devastating impacts on wildlife and communities and habitats in many places, and it's many, many different types of species, not just the famous ones that we hear about. So we have a very strong and active program right across the business. We're certified to the IATA International Standards on Illegal Wildlife Trade, which builds on the commitments under the Buckingham Palace Declaration. And we have trained well over 30,000 staff within our business on what to do and how to address this problem. We're really excited along this line, actually, that the Ministry of Climate Change and Environment and the government, I think it was just last week, released a new law against, in terms of addressing implementation of the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species. So we're really, really supportive of that action. But I let Tanya have the stage. There's one other thing I really wanted to add, and this is towards the new direction. What we're seeing is the greater focus for companies on their value chains and their supply chains. And this is coming through reporting standards like ISSB, the likes of the Task Force on Nature-Related Financial Disclosures, but also, we have a brand new ISO standard on biodiversity and how corporates can address biodiversity. So all of these now are calling attention to how, as a business, we look at both of our dependencies and our impacts on nature, and how we identify them and develop plans and actions on that. So that's what we're doing internally. We're going to build on that and deliver even more momentum.
Thank you. Well, see, this is a reason to fly Emirates, right? But I think on that, and Etihad, of course. But I think what's really important is what you've just alluded to, that we really look at the wider value chain and supply chains, because that is really where, at a consumer level, we're able to also impact this difference. But I wanted to talk a little bit about unlocking finance, and over to you, Tanya, because we often hear terminology such as nature-based solutions, carbon credits, biodiversity credits. It can get quite overwhelming and confusing. And I think financing nature-based solutions is challenging because of that. So what exactly is natural capital or nature-based solutions, and how can we unlock finance to protect and restore nature?
Great, so thank you very much. From our perspective, nature finance is financing structures and approaches that consider both nature risks and nature opportunities. And we see the value chains and supply chains as a critical way of making that possible. So at Clamondial, we are fortunate to work with some of the largest food and beverage companies in the world, and we're seeing that they are concerned about nature risk. So I don't know if some of you followed the cocoa price, the coffee price in the last sort of 18 months to 2 years. Hershey's had to issue a profit warning because of the cocoa price volatility, and we're seeing that many of those large corporates have started to take stock of what potential risks are in important supply sheds, and are more and more willing to actually play a role in helping those supply sheds to transition towards better practices. And I think nature-based finance, nature-based solutions are part of that, and it definitely goes beyond carbon credits and carbon finance to really a more holistic approach that is more grounded actually in business realities and in something that can also contribute to positive economic outcomes. So we're seeing more and more appetite for larger corporates to maybe play a role in helping to unlock financing by providing guarantees, by putting initial seed money into financing structures that can unlock substantial amounts of additional private sector capital from the financial markets. And we're working on a bunch of different structures that do that, everywhere from food security to biosphere and biosphere integrity, including drought resilience. And we're fortunate also to work with amazing researchers, including the Stockholm Environment Institute, to look at decision tools that can also integrate geospatial information, different types of technologies to really understand what are the right indicators and data sources to make informed decisions. So I'm very pleased to also announce that we will be putting that research into a foundation for public goods, and we're looking for other partners that are also willing to kind of have that, which should go beyond reporting for the sake of reporting and really help to build a prominent approach about how we shortlist KPIs that actually make business sense. So would very much welcome a discussion around how we can work together to do that, both to help make businesses more resilient as well as to enable financing.
Thank you. Well, there's an opportunity to hopefully network after this event. But I wanted to, Adnan, go back to you because I think one of the things that we've heard about, there's a number of policies, international policies, national legislations and frameworks that exist. And policy sets the direction as to how we move forward. But how do you actually implement that into action by using technology and innovation? Like, what is ADNOC doing in terms of partnering with technology providers to scale up some of those biodiversity initiatives that you mentioned previously?
Yeah. So what I talked before is setting the strategy on what needs to be done. So the next question, as you mentioned, is the how.
Yes.
So this is where we look for partners, technology providers, contractors, our peers as well, on how can we do it more efficiently, better, faster, to really scale it up. And that was our story when it comes to mangroves. So the traditional way of planting mangroves, this is where we looked at the technology providers, this is where we found about the drones. So this is where we really scaled up and the mangroves planting, and today we're over 5 million already planted, almost over 50% of our target that we put in place, which is as well aligned with the government. We're also looking into marine protection as well, or marine ecosystem protection. So we're thinking of the artificial coral reefs.
Yep.
Structures, looking for technology providers like 3D printing of those structures. This will speed up or help us set really higher expectations as well. So
thank you.
Collaboration is key.
I mean, I wish we had more time to expand on that, but I think one of the final questions is to you, Dr. Wafa, is how can, we've spoken about the need for partnerships and collaboration, but what different stakeholders ought to be mobilized to play and role in combating degradation and desertification? Because this is obviously an area that is not as well known right now. So can you maybe share with us some practical examples of what we can see from the UAE experience?
Yes, sure. So in the UAE, we see the stakeholders as co-owner of the solutions, and we always communicate with them. But the Ministry of Climate Change and Environment actually established a team, a national team, to combat land degradation and desertification. This team has members from different and relevant entities across the UAE. So they are from municipalities, they are from the environmental and agriculture entities, and other ministries such as the Foreign Affairs and Energy and Education ministries. We work together, of course, in the whole year, and then we keep maintaining the progress of the initiatives that we are evaluating every year, and then by the end of the year, we submit a report to the cabinet or to the Ministry Council, as we call it here in the UAE, where they evaluate and give us a feedback on all these kind of initiatives being done by everybody in the UAE. So all the stakeholders are involved.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, I think it's clear that nature is part of business. Business as usual doesn't work, that we really do need to work together. We need to unlock this finance, redirect capital to nature-positive solution, and that this requires an overarching cross-sectoral collaboration efforts. I wish we had more time. I really wanted to ask you, and I think I'm just going to quickly ask you for final thoughts in terms of sending to the audience as to the role of biodiversity and the role of valuing nature in the way that we do business, just before we close up.
I would highlight actually that land is the foundation of protecting and preserving and conserving actually our biodiversity.
100%.
So it's not separate from climate action, it's not separate from biodiversity conservation, they are linked to each other.
Thank you. Very true.
In our
Shannon?
business, we've got to recognise definitely our dependencies, but as people, I think we need to reopen our eyes to the wonder of the world around us and nature and wildlife and biodiversity.
Let me leave you with a mental image. Imagine that we have a world where we just have a bunch of DAC machines and no forests left. I don't think that that's what anyone wants.
I think key thing is collaborate and open dialogue is key for whatever we need to achieve.
Perfect. Well, that sums up this panel discussion. Thank you so much for listening. If you wish to discuss with us further, we'll be available to meet with you afterwards. But thank you, and let nature be, part of our everyday lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you.